fight back, maybe we are totally wrong because we cannot produce a quality population to fight back. We need to go back for the political sphere again in order to play that game as the government, the Myanmar government, we need to do that. And all that all the house in the camp have Aung San Suu Kyi photo hanging on the wall, and the people still thinking that we will get our current state back. But until now, they still have no hope. And this is also the children at Melak camp. And this is the house. That's why they call it temporary, but it's temporary for 30 years. Right, 30
build
years.
this house?
Yes, you know that they just find the bamboo, and they build quite themselves the house.
So the people there in the refugee camp, they build the house by themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you be looking at the overall of the population in the camp, that is, as mentioned, in each camp, majority is still Karen, 80%, and then currently environment and Mon and also others. Mon is quite small number, that even because the Mon, the Myanmar government, that is, the Mon ethnicity is easy to control, and they try to that adapt themselves to stay in that situation. That's why just really the lower percentage of Mon. It's not like Karen. Karen has a very strong mind to fight back. And for the urban refugees, and we talking about the camp and another, we also have the urban refugees. The majority of them, that is, we divide them into the two categories based on the definition of the UNHCR. Refugees who already granted the status as the refugee, and the asylum seekers, they're still waiting for the refugee status. The majority is from Pakistan, the South Asian, and because of the conflict between India and Pakistan. And Vietnam, there is no Vietnamese student here. There is no Vietnamese student. But you know that the Vietnam, they are from the central highland of Vietnam. I'm not sure that Pega or the Mon Chong Yat, that there is the ethnic minority from Vietnam. They are Christian, and they are face a problem of the persecution, and they try to escape from Vietnam. That they flee from Vietnam, but they locked up in Bangkok now. That in the last few months, I think that in the last 4 or 5 months, almost 200 of Vietnamese refugees were arrested in Nonthaburi. It's a suburb of Bangkok, and they just put them in the detention centers. The funny thing is that it's not the funny thing. I think that is a very bad thing. Some of them were there in the detention center for 10 years. How can be there for 10 years? You think about that one. And the majority are from this, and also some of them from the some South Asian countries, like from the Nepal and Sri Lanka, and also from African countries, and just only few of them that from Europe. And we're looking at this one, and as of the February 2018, there's about 8,000 refugees, urban. I mean the refugees that outside the camp, and almost of 80% living in Bangkok and its periphery. And this one is that no ratify the since the government not ratified the refugee convention, they stay in Bangkok. It seems that they were locked up in Bangkok, no job, can do nothing. And if they try to find a job, what they face is the problem, the exploitation, the bad living condition, bad working condition, and they face many problems. And just only 5% of them a year can go to the third country. And this means that it doesn't mean that they're refugee and they stay for a while and then they go. And actually they stay there for at least 8 years, some of them 10 years, some of them more than 10 years, 15 years or 20 years. But the government, the Thai government ignore them, because this one is that they still, that invisible in the eyes of the Thai government. When I try to develop the proposal and try to seek the fund from the government side, but could not get the fund. But still try hard to get the fund to help them to get to access to the basic social services like the health services, and also another important thing. And you're looking at this one, the Vietnamese refugees at the detention center in Bangkok. You try to guess how long they have been there in the detention. They've been there for 10 years. How come? In the detention center as the refugee. And
what will happen to them after 10 years?
They're still in the detention center. This is because the journalists went to the detention and interviewed them. And they mentioned that they've been here, that this since they arrived Thailand with their kids, but they're still there in the detention center. And they have a problem, maybe because their health, and because the living condition is very poor in the detention center. If in the Bangkok, that is in MaleeSunpuwan, the detention center. And this one is the Christian Pakistani refugee in Bangkok. They locked up in the room. How they came to Thailand, but actually they applied visa and overstayed in Thailand. I'm not sure there is a very a big news in Thailand. Rahaf is the Saudi girls who were arrested by the Thai authority and keep her at Bangkok for a while. And then she sent a message to the journalist to help her. And finally, now she's going. Now she's being a refugee in Canada in that case. And it's quite difficult for the refugees to stay in Thailand or I think that in the Southeast Asian country, if you are being the refugee, don't go to that area because you will be arrested by the authority at the airport. And also happened in the Philippines, in Thailand, and also that just only I have heard about the 2 cases in Philippines and in Thailand. And now back to the project, that is because we want to assess the Thai attitude in the province. As I mentioned earlier, that why we choose the 4 provinces, because the Thai people in other areas, they don't know the refugee. And then we conduct the research in Kanchanaburi, Ratchaburi, Tak, and Mae Hong Son. If you remember that all the camp location in that province. And how do people think about the refugee and displaced person from Myanmar? We try to please the government as well by using the term displaced person. And for this one, we got the funding from the WHO, EU, and that's why we have need the public health policy improvement as well in this project. And also recommendation to improve the attitude toward the Myanmar refugee and displaced person in the Thai society. And for the sampling design, that we have both the quantitative and qualitative. But for the qualitative part, mostly focused on the health aspect only because the funding, the major objective for the funding is the health aspect. And we use the stratified sampling strategies to looking at that. We stratify the location into two settings, that is the camp location and the city hall location, the center of the city and also the camp location. We need to compare because we know that the people who live far away from the camp, maybe they are not familiar with the refugee and they even don't have any idea about the refugee. And we randomly selected 5 villages from each area, from the camp location and from the city hall location, and randomly selected 40 people from each villages, and 10 committee leaders were interviewed. And this one we have the 440 cases for our study. And for the qualitative research, we use the progressive sampling to select the key information from the 44 in-depth interviews and 8 focus group discussion. They're from both from the government and also from the NGOs and also from the community leaders as well. Since we use the tool to evaluate the opinion or the perception, that we need the tools that have both the validity and the reliability. The questionnaire will test for 2 times. Why we test the questionnaire for 2 times? Because we use the Likert scale, but actually the actual one cannot use in the Thai society because they not get the idea. I mean that they're confusing with the scale, and then we try to adjust. We call this one as the modified Likert scale. And for the second time, it's quite high reliability, and then we use this to assess the perception of the Thai people to the refugee and migrant workers. We're looking for the 8 aspects, but I will talking one by one. I didn't show you the statistics, but just only the explaining about what happened. Since we stratify into the camp area and the city hall area, and the people who live close to the camp are more familiar with the refugee and migrants than the people who live in the city areas, especially for the refugees. You know that because the people in the city, they have no idea about refugee, and those who live close to the camps also tend to have a better standing of refugee and migrants. And for this one, because if you don't know, you will have some social distance quite far. And if you know them, maybe you have a closer one. And also the resident, the respondent who live in the camp area, they also have a positive view on the migrant than the city respondent. Their status, the worker status and the refugee status also influence the perception of the Thai people, because they quite have a positive view for the registered migrant worker and the refugee than the non-registered migrant worker. Why it happened like this? I did ask for more in-depth question on this issue. And they mentioned that because at least the registered migrant, they have the identification card, can identify who are they. And the refugee also, they stay at some certain area. They're not allowed to go out. Even some of them try to escape from the camp to seek a job outside the camp. But for the non-registered migrant workers, they don't know who are they, where are they from, what they are going to do. That's why they have quite a negative view for those who are non-registered migrants. And also in the camp area, they are under the supervision of the Thai agency and the UN. For the Thai agency, they are both the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Defense. You know, but sometimes the two ministry also they have a little conflict with each other. You know, that once we approach the military to get inside the camp. When we were there, the people from the Ministry of Interior came to us. How you come here? Why you here? You get permission from whom? They said that you get the permission from the military people. And then how come? I'm here. I'm a leader here. I'm a head of the office here. Why I didn't know that you come here? And there's a little conflict between the two ministries. And also another thing that we found in our study that is that